In the bustling city of New York, in the heart of the 19th century, the excitement of discovery and the thirst for knowledge were at an all-time high. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, and the world was changing faster than anyone could keep up. It was an age of invention, exploration, and, above all, curiosity. People were eager to learn about the mysteries of the world beyond their own, and nowhere was that curiosity more intense than when it came to the cosmos. At the time, the moon was a source of endless fascination. Astronomers had been studying the moon for centuries, but the technology of the day limited their understanding. Telescopes were becoming more powerful, and reports of strange celestial phenomena were making headlines. In this climate of wonder and speculation, an audacious story surfaced. A story that would capture the imagination of the public and forever be remembered as the Great Moon Hoax. The tale began in August 1835 when The Sun, a popular New York newspaper, published a series of articles that would rock the world. The headline read, "Great Astronomical Discoveries Made by Sir John Herschel," a reference to the renowned British astronomer, who had gained fame for his discoveries in the field of astronomy. The articles claimed that Herschel, using a revolutionary new telescope he had created, had made groundbreaking observations of the moon that were far beyond anything anyone had ever imagined. But this wasn't just another account of the moon's craters or surface features. No, these articles told of something far more bizarre and sensational. A vibrant, populated world on the moon, filled with strange creatures and extraordinary landscapes. The first article, published on August 25, 1835, described Herschel's findings as nothing short of miraculous. The moon, it claimed, wasn't a barren, lifeless rock as people had thought. Instead, it was a lush, green world teeming with life. Giant, winged creatures resembling bat-like humans were said to fly across the moon's vast skies. These Vespertilian men, as they were called, were described as having large, bat-like wings and elongated features. Their society, according to the article, was a thriving one, with complex cities and advanced technology. The second article revealed more fantastical details. The moon, it was said, had forests and oceans, along with a bizarre species of moon cows that were said to graze in the fields. These creatures were described as having a silvery hue and large, glowing eyes. But perhaps the most extraordinary revelation came with the mention of the Moon People, a race of humanoid beings who lived in caves and appeared to have advanced scientific knowledge. These beings were reported to communicate using a form of telepathy, and they had the ability to manipulate the very fabric of reality. The series continued with increasingly wild and imaginative descriptions of the lunar landscape. The moon's inhabitants were said to worship a great lunar deity, and had built towering temples dedicated to this mysterious entity. They had discovered methods to manipulate the very elements of their world, controlling the flow of time and space itself. The moon was no longer just a celestial body, but a rich, vibrant world with a complex ecosystem and culture. The final installment, published on August 31, 1835, concluded the series with a dramatic account of Sir John Herschel's observations. It claimed that Herschel, while observing the moon through his powerful telescope, had seen these moon creatures up close and had even encountered them. The creatures, it was said, welcomed him to their world, showing him their wondrous cities and teaching him the secrets of the universe. Herschel, according to the story, had returned to Earth with proof of the moon's life and civilization. The articles were an instant sensation. People across the country were captivated. The idea that the moon was not just a lifeless rock but a vibrant, populated world was too extraordinary to ignore. The public clamored for more details, and The Sun became one of the most widely read newspapers in America. At first, few people questioned the authenticity of the story. After all, it was being reported by The Sun, a reputable newspaper, and the name of Sir John Herschel carried a great deal of weight. The public's fascination with space and the unknown made them eager to believe. They could almost picture the moon, not as a distant, cold sphere in the sky, but as a lush, alien world full of strange beings and wonders. But as the weeks went by, cracks began to appear in the story. Skeptics, including some of the leading scientists of the time, started to question the plausibility of the claims. No telescope, no matter how powerful, could reveal such details about the moon's surface. Furthermore, Sir John Herschel himself publicly denied any involvement in the discoveries, stating that he had not even made such an expedition to the moon, let alone seen the fantastical creatures described in the articles. The truth slowly began to emerge: the entire story had been fabricated. The man behind the hoax was Richard Adams Locke, a journalist and writer for The Sun. Locke had created the story as a piece of satire, a clever way to satirize the public's gullibility and the sensationalism of the media. He had concocted the whole tale, using Herschel's name as a guise to lend credibility to the story. The bizarre creatures, the lush landscapes, and the telepathic moon people were all the product of his imagination. Locke's goal, however, had been more than just to entertain. He wanted to expose how easily people could be misled by sensational stories and unverified claims. In the end, it was not just the public's fascination with space that had made the hoax so successful, it was the power of the press itself. People trusted the media, and the Sun had played on that trust to spin a tale so fantastical that it seemed too good not to be true. Despite the eventual revelation that the story was a hoax, the Great Moon Hoax of 1835 left a lasting mark on American culture. For one, it sparked greater interest in the moon and in space exploration. It also raised questions about the responsibility of the press in shaping public perception. And, in an ironic twist, the idea of life on the moon, once thought to be completely absurd, would eventually inspire serious scientific inquiry and, many years later, become a focal point of the space race in the 20th century. While the moon may not have been inhabited by bat-winged men or telepathic creatures in 1835, the Great Moon Hoax of that year remains a fascinating chapter in the history of journalism and the human desire to explore the unknown. It serves as a reminder that, sometimes, the most incredible stories are the ones that come not from the stars above, but from the imagination of those who write the headlines. Although the Great Moon Hoax was eventually revealed as a sensational fabrication, the ripples of its impact were far-reaching. The public's fascination with the moon didn't fade away, nor did the lessons about the power of the media disappear. If anything, the hoax had embedded itself deep into the cultural fabric of the time, leaving behind both intrigue and skepticism in its wake. The aftermath after the truth was revealed, the Sun's credibility took a significant hit. Many readers felt duped, while some scientists and scholars denounced the entire publication as a fraud. But rather than shutting down the Sun, the hoax catapulted it into the national spotlight. People who had once dismissed the newspaper as just another local publication now turned to it for the very thing it had made famous: bold and sensational stories. Ironically, the Moon Hoax made the Sun a model for a new type of tabloid journalism that would thrive in the coming decades. While the hoax was meant to satirize the public's gullibility, it inadvertently showed just how powerful a well-crafted, mysterious story could be. As a result, the press began to realize how easily it could captivate the imagination of the masses by blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Despite the controversy, there were those who continued to believe in the moon's mysterious allure. Some readers, unwilling to accept the hoax as purely fictional, latched onto the story as an example of how the government, or the scientific establishment, had attempted to cover up evidence of extraterrestrial life. They believed that the powerful elites, embarrassed by the scandal, had forced the Sun to retract the articles. These conspiracy theories laid the groundwork for the many alien and UFO myths that would permeate society in later decades. In the years following the hoax, many individuals began to wonder, what if there was life on the moon? Was it possible that something out there had been missed by scientists? Had the powers that be simply dismissed the idea too quickly? These questions would eventually contribute to the growing interest in space exploration and extraterrestrial life in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A cultural legacy. Though the Sun had used the hoax to poke fun at scientific credulity and sensationalist journalism, it inadvertently sparked a cultural fascination with the moon and space that extended far beyond just this one hoax. In literature, the idea of lunar exploration began to take root. The following decade saw the publication of works such as The First Men in the Moon, 1901, by H.G. Wells, which depicted human expeditions to the moon and introduced readers to the idea of alien life. Even though the scientific community at the time dismissed the moon hoax as pure fiction, the event planted the seeds for future exploration of space. As telescopes grew more powerful and rocket science progressed, the idea of traveling to the moon became less fantastical. Scientists like Carl Sagan, decades later, would refer to how even a hoax like this could contribute to a growing interest in space exploration. In the 20th century, as humanity eventually reached the moon, the echoes of the 1835 hoax would be remembered with a touch of humor. The legendary tale of the bat-winged men, the moon cows, and the vast lunar civilization would be recast not as a deceitful hoax but as an amusing footnote in the history of the space age. The scientific reaction after the revelation that the series of articles was a hoax, the scientific community was quick to dismiss the claims, but the hoax also stirred a series of debates about the potential for life on the moon. At the time, astronomers had only a limited understanding of the moon's surface, relying heavily on telescopes that were far from perfect. As better equipment and techniques developed, astronomers like Sir William Herschel and his son John Herschel, who was falsely named as the source of the hoax's findings, began to focus their attention on the possibility of extraterrestrial life on other planets. While the moon hoax itself was shown to be a fabrication, it did leave an indelible mark on the history of astronomy. It underscored how little was understood about the cosmos at the time. The invention of more powerful telescopes, advancements in space exploration, and later discoveries of other planets and moons would slowly reveal the real potential for life beyond Earth. Though it would not be on the moon, as Locke's hoax had promised. The true scientific breakthroughs in lunar research did not arrive until the 20th century, when the Apollo missions took humanity to the moon. By then, however, the Great Moon Hoax had already embedded itself in the public's imagination, lending a layer of myth and wonder to humanity's ultimate moon landing in 1969. Moon Hoax as social commentary. While The Sun had created the hoax as a satirical commentary on the gullibility of the public, it also held a mirror to the rapid growth of sensationalism in the media. The Victorian era was a time when newspapers were starting to recognize their power to influence public opinion and shape national discourse. Locke's series was an early example of this power being used in an exaggerated, almost reckless way, in which a fabricated story, based on absurdity, captured the attention of an entire nation. The Great Moon Hoax also exposed the willingness of the public to believe in the fantastic and the unknown. The audacity of the claims, combined with the prestige of Sir John Herschel's name, made it all the more believable. It was a commentary on how easily people could be convinced to accept sensationalism over reason, a phenomenon that would persist into modern times, especially in an era of clickbait headlines, social media, and conspiracy theories. At the same time, the hoax also revealed something deeper about human nature. The desire to dream, to imagine worlds beyond our own, and to hope that there is more out there, something far greater than ourselves. The moon hoax may have been a lie, but it played on a truth about humanity's fascination with the unknown. Echoes in the space age. As the 20th century unfolded, and the space age took shape, the legacy of the moon hoax resurfaced in unexpected ways. In the 1960s, as astronauts prepared to land on the moon, there were some who doubted the mission's authenticity. These skeptics often pointed to the moon hoax of 1835 as a precedent for lunar myths. They argued that if such a fantastical tale could captivate the world in the 19th century, it was possible that the moon landing itself could be a hoax. Of course, these conspiracy theories were debunked, and the moon landings became one of humanity's greatest achievements. However, the moon hoax served as a reminder of the power of storytelling and the sometimes thin line between truth and fiction. It raised important questions about the role of the press and how much faith people place in the media, which continue to be relevant today in an era of fake news and misinformation. In the end, the Great Moon Hoax of 1835 proved to be more than just a tale of wild imagination. It was a snapshot of an age on the brink of major technological advances, of a society both skeptical and hungry for knowledge, and of a public that, despite all its newfound science, still longed for mystery. As much as it was a cautionary tale about the dangers of believing in something too outlandish, it was also a reflection of how we, as humans, are drawn to the impossible and the extraordinary. And that, in itself, is a legacy that persists. one that continues to fuel our dreams of the stars.